They don't see you coming, but they feel it. That shift in the air when you enter the room, that pressure in their chest when your name is mentioned. They pretend it's nothing, but their whispers are loud, their fake laughter even louder. Chosen ones, the truth is simple. Your presence pulls their lies apart. You don't need to speak. Your silence alone exposes every false mask they've ever worn. They sense something they can't control, can't imitate, and it drives them to madness. You're not just different, you're disruptive. They tried to chain you to your past, but every scar they thought would break you became a symbol of your rise. You are not rising to be admired. You're rising because the very forces that tried to destroy you made the mistake of pushing you into your power. And now, they can't unsee what you've become. Not beautiful by design, but untouchable by truth. And that, chosen ones, is what haunts them most. Their manipulations fall flat. Their gossip circles back. Every attempt to dim you only sharpens your glow. The more they try to bury you, the more obvious your elevation becomes. Because when you're truly chosen, your progress becomes punishment for those who plotted your downfall. So let them whisper, let them twist your story. Every move you make now is beyond their comprehension. You're not here to be accepted. You're here to be felt. Your energy speaks a language their tactics will never translate. And if you're ready to walk in that truth fully, subscribe to this channel. Like this video. Because from here on out, it's not about proving anything. It's about standing in what you already know. You are the reason their comfort is crumbling. You are chosen, and that alone is enough to shake entire systems. Before moving ahead, I want to pause and deeply thank those of you who've supported this mission through Super Thanks. Your generosity isn't just a gift, it's a sign that your spirit recognizes the weight of this message. It tells me you don't just resonate with the truth. We're walking in it together, shoulder to shoulder, as vessels of purpose chosen to disrupt darkness with light. Your support helps carry this fire into places where silence has tried to win. But because of you, the message still rises. And if something in your soul feels this truth, if you know you weren't made to blend in, but to break through, take a quiet moment and affirm it. Comment 999 below, not as a trend, but as your personal signal to the universe that you're standing in alignment, ready and chosen. Number 1. Stop hiding your scars. They're the reason you're untouchable now. You see, chosen one, it was never the shine that drew them in. It was the storm you survived. The cuts, the betrayals, the countless nights you stared at ceilings, asking why it hurt so much. Those weren't setbacks. They were initiations. And what they didn't realize was that every ounce of pressure was crafting you into something unforgettable. Not because you were untouched by life, but because you let life touch you and didn't let it turn you bitter. They wanted you to disappear, fade quietly, become a ghost in your own story. But instead, you became a force they can't ignore. You're still here, louder in silence, sharper in presence, deeper in truth. And it haunts them. Because now, the very scars they mocked are the reason rooms fall silent when you enter. The way you move, the calm in your voice, the fire behind your eyes. It all speaks of survival they'll never understand. You didn't just heal, you transformed. You didn't just come back, you became untouchable. And that's why they watch you with eyes full of curiosity, disguised as contempt. You are proof that broken doesn't mean buried. That being cracked open only made your light harder to ignore. While they spent years numbing their pain behind filters, fake friends and applause, you chose the slow path, the one lined with silence, reflection, and rebirth. And that path turned you into a quiet weapon. One they can't explain, one they can't predict, one they can't compete with, because your power didn't come from pretending, it came from being real, and in a world addicted to appearances, real is magnetic and terrifying at the same time. You walk with the weight of what didn't destroy you, and every step reminds them that you shouldn't be this strong, this centered, this alive. But you are. And that contradiction, that tension between who they thought you'd become and who you've actually risen to be, is unraveling their illusions. You made peace with your pain and turned it into presence. They tried to erase you, but you became the boldest part of the page. And the truth? They don't hate you because you're confident. They hate you because your confidence is built on ruins they hoped would swallow you. You didn't skip the fire, you endured it, and now you glow from within. You didn't chase applause, you became undeniable without it. And that's why they can't stop watching you, because deep down, they know if they had lived your story, they wouldn't have made it. But you did. You rose. And now, everything about your existence is a reminder that resilience will always outshine imitation. Number 2. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. Your presence exposes their cowardice. You don't just walk into a room, you walk into their conscience. Chosen one, your existence is a mirror they never asked for but can't seem to escape. They don't dislike you because you did anything wrong. They're uncomfortable because when you stand in your truth, they're forced to face the lies they told themselves to feel okay. You're living proof of what they could have been if they had chosen bravery instead of comfort, honesty over image, growth instead of approval. Every time you rise, it reminds them of the moment they chose to stay small. That's why they flicker between envy and praise. That's why the ones who once clapped for you now gossip in shadows. It's not the loud things you do, it's the quiet things. The way you didn't quit when they would have. The way you kept your heart clean when life gave you every reason to go bitter. You didn't just survive, you reached beyond survival. And that haunts them because they remember the exact moment they stopped reaching for more. They label you arrogant so they don't have to admit their own cowardice. They twist your growth into something dangerous so they can stay safe in their mediocrity. But it's not you they're fighting. It's the guilt of their own untapped potential. Your light doesn't just shine, it exposes. And those who've buried their purpose feel the burn. You didn't ask to be a reminder, but here you are, standing tall while they shrink inside. And nothing shakes a spirit more than being reminded that it was never supposed to stay asleep. You are their wake-up call, and that's why they flinch. Number 3. Forget being liked. Be so undeniable they can't look away. You weren't made to be liked. You were made to be unforgettable. There's a difference, and the ones watching you know it too well. See, chosen one, you don't just walk into rooms, you shift them. You don't ask for attention, but somehow it bends toward you like metal to a magnetic force no one can explain. This isn't about appearance. Plenty of people look good, but your presence, it's heavy. It carries something no amount of status, charm, or followers can duplicate. You don't chase approval because your power isn't rooted in noise, it's rooted in stillness, and that's what shakes them. While others perform, you exist. While they scramble to be seen, you become the center without saying a word. It rattles them because you're the type that reminds people of everything fake about themselves. They either want to orbit around you or plot your downfall. There's rarely an in-between. Why? Because you represent what can't be bought. You expose the fact that no matter how much they try, they can't imitate the weight of someone who is called, not manufactured. They can't decode you. You weren't handed this. You were built through silence, through survival, through unseen battles that carved out a presence too raw to ignore. Your energy doesn't fit into their hierarchy. You threaten it. So let them stare. Let them wonder. That tension they feel when you walk in, that pull they can't name. That's what happens when someone walks in alignment with who they truly are. You didn't become undeniable by chasing noise. You became undeniable by being real. And nothing terrifies a shallow world more than someone who never needed to perform to be powerful. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, let your quiet agreement be known. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and keep walking in alignment with who you were always meant to be. Number 4. Quit wondering why they're watching. You weren't supposed to survive, and that's what's killing them. By their logic, you should have been done. After the betrayals, the silence, the gut-wrenching nights you didn't think you'd survive, they expected you to vanish. They bet on your collapse. They pictured your story ending quietly, in some corner, forgotten and irrelevant. But instead, you became the plot twist that shattered their expectations. You didn't just stand, you stood taller. While everything around you burned, you built. While the noise got louder, you got clearer. You weren't supposed to smile again, yet here you are, radiant without bitterness. You weren't supposed to move forward, yet here you are, walking with peace while carrying the weight of everything that was meant to crush you. And that's what's driving them insane. The fact that you're not surviving, you're thriving. They whispered curses behind your back, but those curses became wind beneath your feet. They wanted you silent, and now your very presence speaks louder than anything they've ever done. You became untouchable, not in spite of the pain, but because of how you rose through it. You became dangerous not with revenge, but with unshakable peace. And every step you take is a direct contradiction to the version of you they prayed would stay broken. They didn't just underestimate you, they miscalculated your soul. And now, every healed scar, every new win, every ounce of joy you radiate is a mirror reflecting their failure to destroy you. They thought you'd be the story that ends in pity, but instead, you became the proof that pressure doesn't break the chosen. It awakens them. And the worst part for them, you're just getting started. Number 5. Never apologize for your peace. You're the mirror showing them what they ran from. You are the mirror they never asked for, but now they can't look away. You didn't walk into their lives to reveal their shadows, but your presence does it effortlessly, not because you're trying to expose them, but because standing next to someone real makes the fake feel unbearable. And chosen one, you are real in a world that's been performing for applause. You don't have to speak. You don't have to correct them. Your calm truth shatters illusions louder than any words ever could. Every time you show up with clarity, with strength, with peace earned through pain, they feel it in their bones. Not admiration, but discomfort, because you remind them of everything they buried, the passion they suppressed, the dreams they gave up, the truth they traded for approval. They crafted entire masks just to survive the world. But your existence makes those masks crack, because while they were perfecting an image, you were perfecting your soul. While they ran from the fire, you walked straight through it and came out carrying power they can't fabricate. And now they hate what they see, not because you're wrong, but because next to you, their illusion feels paper thin. You didn't become a threat by force, you became a threat by being whole. And nothing is more threatening to a broken world than someone who survived and still chose light. So they label you too much, call you intimidating. But it's all a defense, because you didn't conform, you didn't fold. You became everything they said was impossible, and now, standing beside you, they're forced to admit a truth that haunts them. They could have been more, but they chose less. You chose real, and that's what they can never escape. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, let your quiet agreement be known. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and keep walking in alignment with who you were always meant to be. Number 6. Validation is a trap. Starve their control by standing without applause. You broke their system by not needing it. From the start, whether you realized it or not, you made a quiet vow. You would not beg to be seen. You would not twist yourself to fit in. While everyone else was rehearsing how to be liked, you were remembering how to be real. That choice, to walk your own unpolished path, rattled something in them they've never been able to fix. They can't comprehend how you shine without validation, how you move without asking, how you glow without performing. Your peace is loud, and it unsettles the ones who built their worth on applause. While they mastered the art of being seen, you mastered the art of standing still, grounded, unshaken. And that stillness, that quiet power, it screams louder than their performances ever could. You didn't trade your soul for approval, and that haunts them. You rejected the herd, and now the herd can't stop talking, because your very existence is a threat to the game they thought everyone had to play. You don't need their stage. You are the stage. And they know it. That's why they twist the narrative. That's why they call your confidence arrogance, your independence cold. Because it's easier to paint you as the problem than admit their entire identity crumbles in your reflection. You didn't need to be liked to rise. You just needed to stop shrinking. And now, every step you take without clapping hands in the background, it reminds them they could have done the same, but didn't. You are the reminder that true power is born in silence. And they hate that you never asked for permission to be unforgettable. Number 7. Pretending is their armor. Your truth is the bullet they never saw coming. The real reason they're uncomfortable around you isn't your volume, your ambition, or your confidence. It's your truth. Chosen one, in a world that survives on illusions, your authenticity is a loaded weapon. You don't follow the script. You don't shrink to be liked. You don't dress your soul in costumes just to blend in. And that alone makes you a disruption they can't contain. They've built their lives on performance, fake smiles, rehearsed beliefs, carefully curated masks. But when you walk in, just being exactly who you are, it shakes something deep inside them. Not because you're trying to provoke anything, but because your presence exposes what they've spent years trying to hide. You live freely in a world that teaches people to live filtered. You walk with peace in a system that thrives on anxiety. You chose truth, even when it hurt, when it cost you comfort, company, and the approval of the crowd. And now, you've become the mirror they never asked for but can't avoid. Every move you make, every time you show up without needing validation, their house of cards trembles. Because if you're proof that truth can thrive, it means their entire way of life is a lie. They don't fear you because you broke rules. They fear you because you don't need their rules at all. And if others start catching on to that, if people begin to realize they don't have to beg, bow, or break to belong, the system collapses. That's why they try to isolate you, distort you, silence you. But here's what they don't understand. Your life is the alarm clock. You weren't sent to fit in. You were sent to wake others up. And every time you choose truth, another illusion falls. Number 8. They'll try to box you in, break the cage, and make the ruins your throne. They couldn't handle your rawness, so they called it too much, too loud, too intense, too emotional. But those words weren't critiques. They were containment strategies. When people can't match your depth, they try to label it. They try to shrink you down into something safer, smaller, easier to digest. Not because you were wrong, but because your presence forced them to face what they were never willing to become. They built cages and called them compliments. You'd be easier to love if you just toned it down. But what they were really saying was, don't shine too bright, it's making us uncomfortable. Chosen one, you were not designed to be quiet just so they could stay asleep. You were born to outgrow every label, every box, every role they crafted from their own fears. And that's exactly what you did. You turned their limitations into lessons, their insults into invitations to rise. You stopped asking for permission. You stopped apologizing for your truth. And now, the very things they once used to shame you, that fire in your voice, that storm in your presence, that conviction in your walk, it's shaking the walls of every room you enter. They called you too much because they were too little. Now they're choking on their own definitions while you build legacies from everything they tried to bury. You never needed their approval. You needed to remember who you were before they convinced you to be smaller. And now that you have, you're unstoppable. You're not here to fit in. You're here to take up space. And deep down, even they know it. Number 9. Effort without essence is noise. Your favor was never meant to be earned, only carried. While they've been chasing approval, perfecting every move, and exhausting themselves trying to earn validation, you walk in and disrupt the entire structure. You didn't grind your way into attention. You carried something they couldn't decode. That's why they're confused. That's why they whisper. Because nothing about you follows their formula, and still, you win. Chosen one, they worship effort like it's the only path. They hustle, perform, and sacrifice their peace to be seen. But you became undeniable just by showing up as yourself. You carry a frequency they can't mimic, no matter how many times they try to study your steps. What you have is essence, and essence isn't taught, it's revealed. It's sharpened in private, tested in pain, and unleashed in silence. They've tried everything, climbing ladders, forcing doors, aligning with power, just to touch what you radiate without trying. And it's eating them alive, because deep down, they know their strategy won't replicate your substance. You didn't rise through manipulation, you rose through alignment. While they were busy proving themselves, you were becoming something no performance can duplicate. That's why they call it luck. That's why they say it's unfair. But what they refuse to see is this. You weren't built from applause. You were forged in isolation. You were never chasing attention. You were becoming the reason the spotlight shifts. No matter how loud they get, how many titles they throw around, they can't fake what you carry. You didn't play the game. You changed the rules. And for those addicted to performance, nothing is more threatening than someone who never needed the stage to shine. Number 10. Pain didn't break you, it purified you, and that's what they fear most. For the longest time, they mistook your silence for surrender. They looked at your stillness and thought it meant you had nothing to offer. But chosen one, what they didn't know is that you were never stuck. You were being shaped. Hidden, not because you weren't enough, but because timing matters when power is real. And now, it's too late. They underestimated you while you were underground, not realizing that roots grow deepest in the dark. They thought your absence was the end of your story, but that absence, it was your advantage. You were evolving where their eyes couldn't reach. You were getting stronger in the shadows while they were busy laughing under the spotlight they weren't ready to hold. They didn't see the weight you were learning to carry. They didn't know the pressure you were turning into precision. They thought they had time to dismiss you, but by the time they looked again, you had already risen past every box they tried to trap you in. Now they're scrambling, shocked, confused, because the version of you they planned to erase no longer exists. You became something they don't know how to handle, fully formed, fully prepared, fully undeniable. And the doors they thought they could lock, they're flying open. Let them talk, let them spin their stories. You don't need their recognition. You've got momentum now. And nothing terrifies people more than the realization that the quiet one is already out of reach. They never saw the real you coming. And now, they can't keep up. Number 11. They laughed too early. You were hidden, so your rise would be unstoppable. They were comfortable when you questioned yourself, when you dimmed your light just to keep the peace. As long as you stayed in pieces, you were easy to manage, easy to label, easy to control. Back then, you said sorry for simply existing, and they called that humility. But now that you've stopped apologizing, they call it ego. Chosen one, understand this. They were never cheering for you. They were cheering for your weakness. It made them feel bigger. Your insecurity gave them power. Your self-doubt was their comfort zone. They fed off your hesitation, off your willingness to pour light into their darkness, even when you had none left for yourself. You were a lifeline they were draining, not honoring. But something shifted. You stopped asking for permission. You stopped molding yourself to fit their expectations. You grew, and that growth disrupted everything they tried to freeze you inside of. Suddenly, the same people who loved you began to feel threatened. Your healing felt like betrayal to them. Your boundaries exposed their entitlement. They missed the version of you that tolerated being overlooked, misunderstood, and used. But you've outgrown that skin. You no longer exist for their validation. You don't chase acceptance. You walk in self-respect now. And that to them is dangerous. You didn't forget where you came from. You just stopped carrying it like a curse. And that evolution, it scares them, because your wholeness reminds them that they're still stuck in the brokenness they refuse to confront. You didn't betray them. You just stopped betraying yourself. And now they're forced to face a reality they were never ready for. You're not coming back to the version of you they controlled. You're moving forward, unapologetically. Number 12. They loved your brokenness, but healing made you powerful beyond their reach. Not because it's easy, but because you wear your evolution like it's stitched into your DNA. Chosen one, your glow isn't loud, but it's undeniable. Your silence speaks louder than their performance, and that quiet, composed strength, it ruins the story they've been telling themselves. They built their whole identity on struggle, on bitterness, on excuses disguised as wounds. But then you walked in, whole, focused, grounded, and shattered their comfort with nothing more than your presence. You didn't skip the pain. You just refused to become it. You didn't have a cheat code. They just never had the discipline to stay standing when the storm hit. They look at you and feel something uncomfortable rising in their chest, because your life is a mirror, and they see everything they've abandoned, every dream they let rot, every version of themselves they buried to fit in. Your peace makes them restless. Your growth makes them question the lies they clung to. They'd rather believe you had it easy than admit they gave up too soon. That's why they whisper. That's why they watch from the shadows. Because deep down, they know it wasn't luck, it was choice. And you chose not to fold.